The American College of Cardiology is pleased to present this online education program titled Patient Navigator Program, Focus MI, Next Steps After Opting In. We are very pleased to welcome all of you today, and now it is my pleasure to introduce Julie Mobade, Program Manager for the Patient Navigator Program, Focus MI. Julie, welcome.
Thank you, Kendra, and welcome everyone. So today we're going to discuss, I know that there may be some folks on the line that have just recently opted into the program, and I want to go through what you do after you've done that. Also on the line with me is Susan Rogers. She is our team leader for our quality campaigns at the ACC, and again, welcome everyone. So we'll go ahead and get started. Now that you've opted in and you're ready to go forward with the program, we are going to review building your team, accessing and completing the hospital assessment. We're going to briefly review the program metrics and how to input your data into the survey collection tool. And then we're also going to review the program data dashboard and accessing the Compendium of Best Practices toolkit. So one of the first steps is to build your team. The most important aspect of the program is designating your core team, which actually incorporates a patient navigator team facilitator. They serve as the primary point of contact for the program. The next team member would be a physician medical director or champion, and they would serve as the medical staff liaison. And then lastly, as far as your core team is concerned, a hospital administration team sponsor, and they really ensure that adequate resources are in place to support the program activities. Once you've designated your core team, you want to complete your team by incorporating multidisciplinary care providers. So that team may include members from the nursing staff, social work, pharmacy, cardiologists, and of course quality improvement staff. And as part of the program requirements for the program, we ask that you share your team roster once you've built your team with an email address for each designated team member. The email addresses we're going to use to communicate relevant program information. And in the program requirements, when you opted in, there is a sheet in the appendix of that document that you could use to fill out the roster and send that in to us. So I'm going to move in. I'm going to pause for 1 second. At any time during the program, if you have questions, just feel free to enter them into the chat box, and we will address those either at the end or at the end of the slide presentation. So I just want to make sure that as you think of your questions, you pop them into the chat box. So I'm going to go into the actual assessment, and so that actually establishing your team, and then you take that next step to the hospital assessment. And the purpose of this is to actually help you study your hospital's inpatient discharge process for all your AMI patients and really identify any areas for improvement. The assessment should serve as a guide to help your team determine areas to focus on in implementing quality improvement activities. So on this particular slide, this shows you how to access the hospital assessment. You log into your ACC's Quality Improvement for Institutions, or QII, webpage. So at the top right-hand corner, you'll see right now it says log out, but that's where you would log into the program. And if you don't have, if you have not registered for this webpage, you would need to register. So once you've logged in, then you can go to the Patient Navigator Focus MI under the Campaigns tab as it's shown here on the screen. Once you've done that, you'll be taken to the Patient Navigator program Focus MI main landing page. And then as you can see on the left-hand navigation bar, you're going to click where it says it's next to the Focus MI features, access the drop-down menu, and from this you're going to select Assessment. And once you select Assessment, you're going to see that there's a box there which says Start New Assessment. And then in order to advance through the assessment, there's approximately 44 questions that you'll be answering based on your discharge processes. So, and you can go through that. The best thing to do is actually gather your team together and go through these questions because, again, you're looking at your discharge processes, and that may include many members of your multidisciplinary team. And it will help you identify your areas for improvement and where you really need to focus. So once you've started your assessment, you're going to go through the questions, and this is an example here of the types of questions that you'll be asked. Most of the questions are based off of the metrics, which we'll talk a little bit about later in the presentation. But again, there's about 44 questions, and the focus here is to look at your discharge process for your AMI patients. So you'll go through and answer each of the questions, and you just to advance, you'll click on the box that says Next, and that takes you through the series of questions. Once you've completed the assessment, at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see where it says Finish. And once you click on Finish and you've answered all of your questions, you're going to receive, there'll be an area where you put in your email address and you'll receive a scorecard. So this page shows you what your scorecard will look like. You'll get a percentage. There's a total of 120 points for the 44 questions, and then you receive a score. And again, this is for your use, so you'll be able to see, based on the metrics, where you might need to focus your efforts on improvement, and actually where you're doing really well. If you need to close out of the assessment, and you do have the option to do so, you can just go back, and if you click the assessment, I'll show you here, it'll say on the left-hand side there where you can actually resume it. And the next tab over says discard and start over. So you can actually start it and then resume it at a later time if you don't have the resource when you're answering those questions, or if you need to go look something up, you have the ability to do that. If you may also access past assessments, and you can see that as well. So if you've completed one and some things have changed, or you want to reassess how you're doing, you can actually take a look at the past assessments, and you can actually do another assessment during the program. So now that we've gone through the assessment, I want to briefly just kind of discuss the program metrics. There are 4 outcome metrics, which include readmission rates and mortality rates. There are HCAHPS questions, and those questions, we pulled 3 of the HCAHPS questions that actually relate to transitions of care. So they're specific to the program. Questions like how the patient, or did the patient understand when they left the hospital, their treatment, and things like that. So we specifically picked those 3 questions to relate back to the program and the goal of the program. The chest pain MI registry, there are 14 process metrics for that, and that's formerly the action registry metric. And then there are 9 facility tracked metrics, which include things like identifying your EMI patients prior to discharge, risk assessing for risk of readmission, medication reconciliation on admission and discharge, patient education regarding their treatment regimen and their medications, any new medications, et cetera. And then do the patients receive resources if they're high risk as far as community resources such as financial assistance, transportation, anything like that. We want to make sure that when the patients are transitioned to home that if they have a need for those types of resources, that it's documented and that it's available to those patients. So once you've reviewed your metrics, you're ready to get started in data collection. You'll need to log into your NCDR and the chest pain MI registry. And then from the left-hand navigation bar, you'll see the survey data collection tool next to the Patient Navigator program. From there, you click on to open the survey tool, and the first survey you're going to want to complete is the baseline. So you actually see the baseline, which is 2016. You see a quarterly survey tool, and then the surveys will pop up at each quarter as you click on the survey collection tool. So, like I said, the first survey the first survey that you're going to enter data into is your baseline, and this survey captures data pertaining to the period prior to joining the program. So the baseline time period is October 1st, 2016 through September 30th, 2017, and this data allows participants to compare their current performance to their baseline at any point in the program. So when you're ready to populate the baseline survey, you would actually click on Create Survey for the line with the submission type of baseline. So again, where it says 2016, you see submission type, it says baseline, and then you would create a survey. So once you've selected baseline survey, the left navigation will display all of the categories and sections of the survey. So you can use this to move to a particular session, and it's set up by metric, outcome metrics and process metrics. So you can, if you want to complete your outcomes metrics first, you have that ready to go. You can click on those and go ahead and finish those. Additionally, instructions for filling out the survey appear, and along with the buttons to save and continue. So once you've clicked Save and Continue, a blue flag appears at the top of the page and the bottom of the page to indicate that your data has been saved. So when you by clicking the Save and Continue, you're then automatically directed to the next section of the survey questions, and you'll notice a green check mark after instructions, and as you complete each section, the survey will check it off for you to help you navigate back to where you need with ease. So as you populate the survey, you just key in your data. If the data, you'll see if the data for a particular metric is not available or it's not tracked during the data collection time period, then you want to use the NA button, which is available to you. So that means that the data is actually not available. If the data for the numerator on a particular metric is actually a true 0 value, so that means that it's not completed or documented and the metric was not met, then that's when you would actually enter a 0 value for the numerator. If you need to come back to questions later, this is permitted, so you simply select Save and Continue, and then you can you note that the sections without a response or an NA, they would be considered not complete. The process metrics, as I said, many of the metrics come from the chest pain MI registry, formerly the Action Registry. So these particular metrics do not need to be manually entered. This page functions to inform you that the metrics will be automatically populated from the registry. And when you get to this page, you simply save and continue. So it's somewhat grayed out. Once all of your data has been entered into the data collection tool, you're going to select Complete to submit your survey and move it to completed status. So automatic quality checks are in place to identify errors or that will not allow the survey to move forward, like 0 denominators, missing data for questions that have to be answered, numerator greater than the denominator, and invalid characters. So there are some safety checks in there. And again, when you click Complete to submit the data, and populating the quarterly survey works the same way as the baseline. So I want to talk a little bit about how you can see your data. We developed a program data dashboard. And it looks very similar to your registry dashboard. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see Focus MI outcome metrics, Focus MI process metrics, Focus MI outcomes graphs, and Focus MI process graphs. So you have the option, the next line it says Display Whisker Plot. You have the option of displaying the box plot and whiskers, or only the dashboard area without the box plot and whiskers. So on the left-hand side where it says metric name, it lists out each of the metrics in the program. And then you will see your hospital baseline data, and that will stay stagnant, that column. The next section will be your hospital's quarterly data, and you'll see your numerator, denominator, the current quarter, the rolling 4 quarters. Then the next column gives you the chest pain MI registry 50th percentile. The next sections, there are actually only 2 columns for that, and you'll be able to compare your data for each metric with anyone who's participating in the national program, and you'll be able to see those statistics. If you would click on the metric on the left-hand side, you're going to be able to see your hospital's trending data for that particular metric, and you'll be able to see where you are in graphic form related to the rest of the hospitals in the program. So the benchmarking data and your hospital data. You can export the dashboard and the graphs at any time. You can do it in a PDF format or an Excel format. This particular picture of the dashboard is a picture of the process metrics. If you were to click on tab 3 or 4 at the top, that actually shows you the graphs. So you may just want to pop in and take a look at how you're trending for a particular metric, if you click on tab 3 or 4, depending upon which metric it is, it's going to pop up the graphics and you'll be able to see where you are. And you can do that at any time. The other thing I wanted to talk about, one of the resources that we have for each particular metric, we developed a toolkit. The Navigator program was started about 4 years ago, the original program, and from that, many of the hospitals shared their resources that they used to collect some of the data and shared their tools. And so we developed a compendium based on that of best practices, along with many of the other tools from some of the other quality programs. And to access that, you would go in again to your Quality Improvement for Institutions website. You click on Focus MI Features on the left-hand navigation bar, and then you'll see Patient Navigator Program Focus MI Compendium of Best Practices Toolkit. So the table pops up the Focus MI metrics and the strategies to support each of the metrics are listed out. And this gives you a quick example for the 30-day unadjusted readmission rates. There are 3 tools within that to help you succeed in completing this particular metric. And that's how it's set up for each of the 8 metrics within the program. So I'm going to pause, and hopefully we'll get some questions based off of the session. So I'm going to see if there's any questions. Again, submit your questions in the chat box, and we can go through some of those. We are always available for questions as you're going through the process. Of submitting your data, collecting your data, etc. There are lots of resources out there.
Great. And Julie, just while we are waiting, it does look like there are a couple of questions in. Just wanted to go over, there was an inquiry about whether slides are available for everyone, and those are listed in the links box, which is on the left-hand side of your screen, so it's just above the chat box. We have it listed as number 1, the presentation slides link, and that is a PDF. And I'm happy to move on to questions. Susan, did you want to go over those, or I'm happy to take a look at them as well?
Kendra, why don't you go ahead and do that? I don't see them on my side.
Sure, absolutely. So our first question, can we start and not finish an assessment? Will it save?
Yes, you can. I did show that there is a resume. So if you were to go out, you were answered some questions and you go out, you can actually resume the assessment and continue it.
Great. And is this for all patients or a selected few?
This is all your registry eligible patients.
All right. Let me see. We've got one other question. And again, just wanted to remind everyone to ask a question, please type it into the chat box at the bottom left corner of your screen, then click on the send button. And our next question, this person is just looking into this program. Is there a fee or on-site survey associated with this?
No, the program is open to all chest pain MI registry participants, and no fee, no additional fees or anything. This is what is available to you if you are a participant in the registry.
Great. Our next question, what is the best way to contact, or who should we contact for the any questions during the submission process in order to get the quickest response?
The best way to ask questions would be ncdr@acc.org, and we monitor that on a regular basis.
Great. And then our next question, if you miss a deadline for submission, may you still enter late?
you can enter the data. It won't be published, however, until the following publication for the next data deadline. And the data deadline follows the registry deadlines for the Navigator program.
Okay, great. All right, I'm not seeing any additional questions at this time, so we'll do just another last call for questions. In the meantime, while we are waiting to see if any additional ones trickle in, Julie or Susan, anything to add or any other comments?
Hi, it's Susan. The one thing that I would add is that if you do miss a data deadline and you're still in the process of collecting the data for the Navigator program, you will show, just as the registries do on the dashboard, if you've entered your data in by Sunday at 11:59 p.m., by Monday morning at 12:02, your data will show up in your data dashboard. So it works continuously, just as the registry data dashboards do. It just won't be compared to those national numbers. You're not going to be included in those denominators. So you'll still have a working document that you can utilize. It'll take until the following data deadline before your actual hospital's data will be included into the denominators.
All right, great, thank you. And we do have a couple more questions that have rolled in. If you are chest pain accredited, can you use that same team?
Absolutely, yes. The goal for the Patient Navigator program is to have a multidisciplinary team, and a physician, a key facilitator, and then administrative support would be your core team, and then absolutely the rest of the multidisciplinary team would be perfect. That you don't have to develop multiple teams.
All right, great. I'm sorry, was there something else? I didn't mean to cut
Yeah,
off.
I was just going to mention too, we do have a listserv that is available to everyone, and on the website you can actually put your email in and submit that, and you'll be part of the listserv where you can have access to all of the hospitals that are participating, and you can ask questions as you would via email on the listserv. And we do submit common questions on a regular basis. That's where we post announcements, reminders about the data deadlines and things like that.
Great. Our next question, does the data dashboard give current feedback for the current quarter you're putting data in for? We are current members of this program, but I am a new navigator.
Hi, it's Susan. So yes, just as I was explaining a few minutes ago, as soon as you put your data in the following Sunday night at midnight, it'll aggregate so that you do see a current dashboard, just as you would with the chest pain MI registry dashboard.
Great, thanks. And then our next question, can we submit data more than once per quarter?
More than once.
You can. So if you have an updated data, and we went through this with some of our metrics, the CMS data certainly is not available except for once a year, and sometimes the availability falls after a data deadline, and if that occurs, yes, you can go back in and enter in that data into the data collection survey tool. It'll show up onto your dashboard the following week after that Sunday aggregation, and then it'll be incorporated into your final dashboard with the next data deadline.
Great. Our next question, do you have to be a registered navigator to be part of this program?
You have to be part of the chest pain MI registry, and then you have to opt into the Patient Navigator program Focus MI to be a participant.
All right. Great. Well, thank you, ladies. Those are the last of our questions. Before we wrap up, anything else to add?
I would encourage if anyone thinks of questions after this presentation, again, it is available for you, the slides, to ask your questions on NCDR, and we will definitely get back to you as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. And Julie, did you want to touch on the upcoming webinar for the next round?
Yes. So we have our next national webinar is on Thursday, November 29th, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And then also, as I was mentioning before, if you would like to join the listserv, this is the address, Patient Navigator Focus MI at lists.acc.org. And again, it's a great way to share information with other hospitals and Navigator hospitals.
All right.
And there might be, is there any other questions?
Oh, actually, yes, we do have one more that just popped in. When do we start? We have opted in but have not heard anything.
Okay, if you have opted in, then your next step is to complete your baseline data. So you would go into the survey data collection tool and click on the baseline and complete your baseline data and start collecting that data, and then subsequently would be your quarterly data. You could also complete the assessment so that you can find out kind of where you stand as your discipline and where you might need areas for improvement so that you get that scorecard. The other thing you want to do is develop your team. So unless you already have a team in place, then you're good to go, and you can start that process as well. Get your 3 core people in place, and then your multidisciplinary team. Complete your assessment, and then your baseline data. And then from there, you would do your quarterly data.
All right, great. And that looks like that was our last question. So Julie and Susan, thank you so much. Unless there's anything else to add, I think we can go ahead. I know we're wrapping up a little bit early, but we can go ahead and close things down.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Great, thank you so much. And with that, we will conclude today's online seminar. A very special thank you to Julie and Susan for joining us, as well as all of our participants. Today's program is copyright 2018 by the American College of Cardiology with all rights reserved. This concludes today's program. Thank you. You may now disconnect.